All right, everyone, this is Greg Viti with Real Estate Legends. I'm so excited to be here with my first cousin, Gabriel Viti. Gabriel, we call him the adventure chef for good reason. We're 6 years apart. Our parents, or our fathers, were 6 years apart. They're from the Viti family of Guy and Esther Viti. Guy got to Highwood in 1915. Esther got sent here later. It was a arranged marriage. They had 9 children. They were all crazy fun. Our fathers were nuts. We had a riot growing up. Being 6 years apart from Gabe, I missed some parts of his life as it was actually happening, but we always stayed tight and connected. And Gabriel was kind of a hellion when he was young. And when he figured out that he had a passion to become a chef, to become an entrepreneur, to become a restaurateur, and then to become an international superstar, it all blended down. Gabe, wouldn't you say that? I mean, I know you're a humble guy, you don't want to think of it that way, but when did it happen with you where you knew, I'm going to be a restaurateur?
You know, my father insured most of the restaurants in Highwood, and I used to go with him during the evening because that's when the guys were there to talk to him. And at 5 years old, I wanted to have a restaurant in Highwood.
That's phenomenal. 5 years old.
Yeah, I mean, just as a young guy, I knew this was going to be my thing.
Was Arnie's your first time working?
Arnie's was a restaurant that I worked at in high school.
Yeah, you were a pizza chef.
Yeah. He put me. That was my first chef shop. I was a junior in high school, and then I worked with Arnie Morton even in the city. You know, years after that. And great guy, sharp guy.
So how did you figure out that you were going to go to France and study under some of the best chefs?
You know, when I was working at the East Bank Club, that was also a Arnie Morton
that's right.
project over there, at least for the restaurant end of it. And one of the chefs there started talking to me about chef school. So I went and I interviewed in Rhode Island at a school, in Vermont at a school, and then I ended up at the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York. And I did my 2 years there. And I had met a French guy that came into the kitchen at the 95th floor where I was working on the Hancock Center, and he said, when you're done with school, why don't you come over? So a week after graduation from culinary school, I left for Italy to see our family there, and I had a 3-week round-trip ticket, and I stayed 6 years. France, Italy, and Switzerland.
Now, I know that this studying was very hard on Gabe, because I think he skied about 80 times a year in France.
Well, that was after the fact.
Okay.
You know, when I first started, I was working for some great chefs. I was fortunate.
You're probably working 12 hours a day.
At Robuchon in Paris, there was 18-hour days. And
wow.
That was, Robuchon at the time was as hot as it got. I mean, he was in Paris. That was a big deal. I worked for him for a year for free. And of course, my folks helped me, like almost if I was going to college.
Right.
And then when I left Robuchon, I asked him if he could give me a job at Freddie Girardet's restaurant. They were like competing #1 and #2 in the world.
Wow.
And he said, yeah. So I had to wait 3 months before. So I went and worked at a couple of the restaurants, and ended up in Crissier, Switzerland, with Freddie Girardet, which was another great experience I did for a year.
These guys yell at you pretty good?
I had Robuchon throw a plate at me. Hit me right in the chest.
Yeah, you know, chefs are nuts. I had the chef at Arnie's actually chase me with a steak knife once.
I can see that.
Well, he was harassing.
You antagonized the guy.
He was harassing
the
waitresses. What are you gonna do? So, Gabe, I know the classic story of you, the sous chef at Carlos, and the head chef is making about 200 grand a year, and he's getting a little cocky, and he says some sarcastic thing during a meeting, and Carlos says, "You know what? You can leave. I'll have Viti be the chef." And you jumped in that day and crushed it.
Yeah, it was something like that. You know, Roland Luciani was the chef, and he went and bought La Francais from Jean Blanchet.
Okay.
And Carlos called me and said, "Hey, do you want to be the chef of the restaurant?" And I said, "Yeah, definitely." I came in. It was a holiday weekend. I remember having a dumpster dropped off, and I gutted out the whole kitchen while everybody else was on their little vacation. They all came back in. They're like, "Oh, new guy in town." That was a great gig.
And that's what Gabriel is. He's not scared to shake it up. And just think of this, like he's deciding, he's come out of school and he's deciding, I'm going to have my own restaurant. And you had such a passion for it that your dad believed in you so much
Yep.
that he put the money up.
Yep.
And man, what was your mindset? What were you thinking when you really were getting Gabriel's together? Gabriel's became the best restaurant in the North Shore for sure for 18 years. He had everybody in the country coming here. He actually had an ad, or not an ad, it was just the Tribune wrote an article on him. It was 6 pages, it had 17 pictures. It was the most impressive thing I've ever seen in my life, and you ran with it.
Yeah, that was great. That was a good kickoff for the restaurant.
So what was the mindset? What were you thinking, Gabriel?
First, the mindset was that my family put their house up, and if the restaurant didn't succeed, I was going to be in big trouble.
So you had a little nerves.
So I worked every day. I was there full time, and just pushed and pushed and pushed, and the restaurant just kept to build.
Well, I can attest that this guy worked the front door better than anyone I'd ever seen. And so he's not only working the front door, he's working everybody that's sitting down, and he's working the kitchen.
Yeah.
And always had that hat on. Everything's always meticulous. In Gabriel's, everything was always meticulous. I would go a lot and just sit at the bar because I knew I could get free pasta. And I remember one day saying to Gabriel, like, did you just paint this place? He says, oh yeah, we paint it like sometimes twice a month. People are paying this kind of money, they want it perfect.
Yeah.
And that was the energy you took to every plate that was delivered.
Yeah.
Every single person.
It was a good feeling, Greg, to be able to focus on the customers. I never had a problem staying late with people that want to sit and talk or sit and drink or smoke a cigar. It was social for me, but I loved it. And you have to be, in that case, at that point, it was sincerity. I mean, I was really sincerely excited that my customers were coming in the door. It was fun.
So with this Gabriel's, it's a 2-story place, probably put almost $1 million into it, worked like a madman. Within 5 years, he paid the whole thing off. Then he stayed there for 18 years, and in the meantime, he was funneling time and money and energy into where we are now, which is Miramar Bistro, which changed Highwood, let's admit it. Between you getting Gabriel's and attracting all these people to Highwood, and then putting together this gorgeous place with a big event space, and just, you brought people from all over to Highwood again.
Right.
And this has been a great adventure for you.
Yeah, this is an exciting place. I built this place. This was my expression. If I was a French chef in Paris in the 40s and I moved to Havana, if I was to go to Cuba, I would have opened this exact place in the 40s.
So he does have some affiliation to Cuba. I never asked him what was pulling him there, but did you go there 50 times or was it 48?
I think like 70.
Yeah, about 70 times.
You know, it was nice.
To Cuba.
What was nice about Cuba is, you know, I'm obviously a cigar aficionado, and at the time I was drinking, so I love that Cuban rum. But I was able to go there. I'd work 100 hours a week for 4 weeks, and I'd go to Cuba for 5 days. And at that time, there was no internet, there was no cell phones.
Just chill.
And you could really, and I never would run into a customer there. I was in Moscow at the Ritz, I ran into a customer from there. I was in Paris having dinner, guy behind me was a regular customer here. You know, so
how great is that?
In Havana, you don't run into anybody.
No.
So that was a special, and that's what sparked the idea, because there was a bar I used to go to, the Floridita, where Hemingway used to hang out. It was rated the best bar in the world for years. And I wanted a Floridita in Highwood. I figured it'd be a cool place. Well, then
it mushroomed.
It mushroomed and ended up buying the 2 buildings next door and putting the party rooms in and the kitchen. And
I like
exciting project though.
I'm at the bar one day and Gabe has a picture of Fidel Castro on the wall. And some guy comes in and starts bitching about it. And Gabe looks at him and goes, if you don't like it, you can leave. I mean, you don't have to stay in my restaurant, but the picture is staying.
Yeah, I wasn't doing a political statement or anything.
No.
I just wanted it to be like if you're in Cuba and you go to Cuba, there's pictures of Fidel.
Of course
and
there
Che
is.
Guevara.
So with the food here, what would you call this food? It's not really Italian, but you have some Italian.
I have some Italian, but it's a French bistro.
It's a French
With
bistro.
the roasted duck with the orange sauce, and we did the onion soup, and it's just classics. Steak frite.
The steak frites are unbelievable.
Yeah, I just wanted a bistro. I just really wanted a bistro.
Well, he put a lot of money into this place. $3-4 million has got to have been. If you look at the kitchen, and maybe we can bring you around and show you some of the places. One of the great things he did here was he turned this place into a disco for a while.
Yeah, weekends.
And I'll never forget, I had this guy come up to me and say, you can't believe what your cousin's got going on. I had these 2 married women come up to me and tell me that they rent an apartment to take young guys like me and have fun with. I thought, oh my God, this thing is getting out of hand.
Yeah, well, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Nor did I promote that. But what we did do, I had a friend that had a DJ company, and he said, I think on Friday and Saturday night, 10 o'clock, we started DJ. I said, these people aren't going to dance.
Oh
they
my
danced.
God.
And they came from everywhere.
Everywhere.
Calumet City, Milwaukee, regulars, every weekend.
And then you finally figure that's enough.
I wanted the restaurant to be a restaurant. I wanted it.
Right.
I wanted to use the banquet facilities for that. I didn't want it to be a big party all the time like that. So it's where we ended up.
Well,
That's the direction we
He also has a wine cellar downstairs that in its peak was one of the nicest wine cellars in the country. And it attracted guys that you might have heard of, like Michael Jordan.
Yeah, the guys like to come smoke cigars down there. I had that before I even started the restaurant. This was still a pharmacy at that point. And I also, would bring guys over. I'd pick a couple of
You had
tables.
the wine cellar for Gabriel's.
And I was also building wine cellars in homes. And so that was my showroom. So I would pick a few tables every night at Gabriel's and have the waiters bring them over. I'd set up everything downstairs. They could see what I was building. And we had about 19,000 bottles downstairs. I mean, Gabriel's wine list was pretty expansive.
Wow, 19,000.
Yeah, it was quite a wine.
Okay, so now he's busy with all of these restaurants and things, and then he gets a wanderlust. He decides he wants to do some marathons, do a few marathons. Then he decides he wants to do some Ironman, does some Ironman. Then he decides he wants to climb Mount Everest.
Yeah, that was at 39. I went into my chiropractor's office, and he had a patch on his neck. It was just at my 39th birthday, and I said, "What happened to you?" So I did a triathlon. I said, "Would you fight 3 guys?" He goes, "No. Triathlon is you're going to swim, bike, and run." I said, "Well, what happened to your neck?" He said, "My wetsuit, the chafing from the Velcro." Wow, which I in later
You
years
learned about
found
that. Yeah.
So I said, "You think I can do it?" He says, "Yeah." So the next week I hired a coach. I wanted to do a triathlon for my 40th birthday, and I did. I did a Chicago triathlon for my 40th, and 2 hours
So
after.
how long is the run? What is it?
Well, that was an Olympic distance. So you got a mile swim, and then you ride your bike for 25 miles, and then you run 6.5 miles. That's the Olympic distance. And 2 hours after that, I got on a plane and went down to Portillo with my kids. It's in Chile. I wanted to ski. I wanted to be on skis for my 40th birthday.
Fantastic.
So then when I got done with that, I came back here. I ended up opening Miramar. I opened Pancho Viti's next door. I opened Gabe's Backstage Lounge.
That's right.
And then a guy that I trained with before said, "Hey, why don't we do an Ironman?" I said, "Do you think I could do an Ironman?" And the Olympic distance triathlon was a push. And he said, "Yeah, we trained for it. We'll do it in a cool place." So we did Florianopolis, Brazil. So we went down there, but during that training, I did the Chicago Marathon, I did the Marathon of the Great Wall of China, so I was pretty fit. And then on the way back from Brazil, coming back here, I read the book Into Thin Air by
Right.
John Krakauer, great book. And I got off the plane and said, "I'm going to climb Mount Everest." And I told some friends, and they laughed. I said, "No, I'm going to climb Mount Everest."
That's what you love, though. When somebody kind of pokes you a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes, I
I
can.
like the having the wall in front of me.
The challenge.
I can get over it. Exactly. So I called Guy Cotter, who was Rob Hall's partner. Rob Hall died on the mountain that year in '96 and on Everest. And I called him. I said, "You still climbing?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, I live in Chicago." He goes, "There's no mountains there." I said, "I know." He says, "Do you have any experience?" I said, "Yeah, I climbed at the Evanston Athletic Club on the wall." He goes, "You're going to need more than that." So within a month and a half, I was on my way to Ecuador for high altitude climbing on the volcanoes there, and fell in love with it and climbed for 4.5 years straight. Climbed
You've
all
never
over the
climbed
world.
before that?
Never wore crampons, nothing.
Okay, so not only does he climb Mount Everest, but then he decides, I might as well do all 7 summits.
Yeah, the
Then he
highest-
starts to get to where there's very few people who've ever done this.
Well, I did the 7 summits, the highest peak on each continent, and then I wanted to be the first person to do the second highest on each continent, which, funny enough, the second highest peak on each continent is
Harder.
much more difficult. So instead of Everest, it's K2. And so I was training for K2, and we went to Dike Tao. It's a mountain in the North Caucasus in Russia. and I was with a great climber who
this is
climbed Everest.
tough story.
He climbed Everest maybe 14, 15 times at the time. And so he says, why don't we go there, we'll climb together, see how we feel together.
But this is like climbing on a flat.
This was double tool ice climb. It was intense, 65-pound packs, just the two of us. And
Are you tied in for the top or no?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're using ice screws and everything. So we get up to the top. We're about 50 feet from the summit. I belay him up. He's on the summit. He starts holding his head, and it was foggy out, and I could hear thunder, but didn't really think about it. We'd been climbing for 7 days, and I was excited about the summit. And he jerks the line for me to bring him back in. I figured, okay, so I bring him back in. He goes, you can't feel that. And at that point, we could feel the electricity going through our heads and smelled burning hair, and our ice tools were attracting electricity. We were in an electrical field.
Oh, God.
So we frantically, dangerously climbed down and got out of it. We were in it for about 3.5 hours. And later, when we got down to this military base where we had started at, the guy said that the year before, 7 guys died in that same place. It's pretty common there. You're at altitude. There's something about a storm.
How high? Like 12,000 feet?
That was like I think it was about 19,000 feet.
Whoa!
Yeah, so
So the air is so
beautiful.
light.
It's light, but it was the electricity in there. It happens a lot in Colorado too. Guys will be out hiking, and all of a sudden their hair starts standing up. You're in an electrical field. I saw no lightning strikes, but at that point, I realized that it was time to try to do something else. When I went back to the tent, I didn't even take my crampons off. We were fried. It took us 3 days to get back down to this military base. Then we went to Moscow and drank a little vodka and had the fun. And then on the way back, I decided maybe it's time to start swimming. So that's when I started training for the English Channel.
Then he decided he's going to swim the English Channel. It was a little challenge. The English Channel, it's pushing you pretty fast, so it's not like you swim straight across.
No, it's like a zigzag. You don't know that while you're swimming. And you can see France after 3 hours.
And you're bobbing.
Yeah, I had a pretty good day. I had a pilot boat that I had signed up with 2 years in advance, and I had a good day. The sun was shining. And
What time of day did you start?
4:20 a.m. in the
Wow.
dark. And then, I started, and I got a
Cramp?
I thought it was a cramp, and I've never had a cramp.
You're getting
The whole time trained, never had a cramp. It was jellyfish.
Oh,
I
God.
got stung. So you don't really know if you're allergic until you get stung. And you don't go out and get stung to figure it out.
Right.
So I was not allergic, but it was painful. I got stung about maybe 42, 45 times.
Wow.
But these were big jellyfish like this, and you can't swim like this. So I had my head down, and it hit my front of my hand, go all the way down my body to my toe.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And the people on the boat could see it happening, see it coming, but they couldn't warn me. So that was a great
Did you
swim.
ever think about
16
stopping?
hours. Never. Not for a second.
That's what I'd love to hear.
I was in a meditative state most of the swim. It was beautiful. Got to France. I'm swimming up to France. And now the observer who's not supposed to jump in the water, she jumps in the water. My girlfriend jumps in the water. My friends jump in the water. We're all swimming to the beach. And I could see these people running from a restaurant. There was a restaurant on the beach in France, in Wissant. And all of a sudden, I figured, well, these people probably think I'm somebody else. So I swim up and I get up on the beach, and they're all like clapping. I go, "Vive la France!" And they all start screaming. That was exciting time. Then we went back to England. And
So he's
Paris.
doing all of this while he's running these restaurants. Like,
It was fun.
yeah, you know what? I do feel like people that are big time achievers like yourself do a little better when you have the pressure.
Yeah, the pressure just comes with it, Craig.
Right.
That's how it is.
Well, I mean, if you're in the restaurant industry, it never ends.
Yeah.
It's always coming. You got to order new food. You got to make sure that the people aren't ripping you off. You got to make sure they're being nice
there's
to the
so
clients.
much to do in this business. But after doing this business for so many years, climbing Mount Everest was easy. Swimming the channel was easy. It
Isn't
was
that
nothing
something?
compared to this. This is tough. This business is tough. Anybody in it will tell you. Whether it's
Hey.
an owner, a waiter, a chef, it doesn't matter.
A lot of them don't survive. The
No, they
majority
don't.
of the
They
restaurants
don't.
don't survive.
They don't.
Let's be honest.
They don't.
There's some people that really have it down, like the Let Us Entertain Yous of the world. So let's talk about him being a real estate legend. He buys Gabe's, he pays it off, he eventually leases it out on a triple net lease. I don't know if you folks know triple net lease, but very few people in this world have triple net leases, but when you get a good one with a great tenant, it pays you automatically every month. and it calms the nerves, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier than running the restaurant.
So yeah. The restaurant, you got all these people, all this manipulation. So then you bought a really nice house in Highland Park,
I did.
and then you renovated it like a wild man.
Yeah,
you made your outdoor space better than most people's indoor space.
Yeah, the outdoor space, I mean, would have been perfect in San Diego because I could only use it for 4 months a year. But
It was
we had
perfect.
some fun.
Oh,
had some great family parties there, didn't we?
Yeah, I called Gabe one day and I said, Gabe, I just ran into Uncle Guy, and it doesn't look like he's got very long. And since my dad's gone and your dad's not doing the Viti picnic anymore, we need to do something. And then we put together some parties at his house.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was
great. And it was nice too because the family got to get together once a year at least.
At least.
So not everybody lived real close.
No.
But the cousins got to meet their cousins and spend time with them, and they look forward to it every year. That's why this party Sunday is going to be a big deal.
Yeah, we got
100 people.
100 people coming here to Miramar, and so if you're a Viti, you're related to the Innocenzis, the Torellis, the Morettis, the Oris. Let's think of who else. We get the Swarthouts of Lake Forest. Anytime someone asks us or tells us they're from Lake Forest, they'll say, "Oh, you know the Torellis or the Swarthouts?" And every single time they do. It's just like if you meet someone and they ask you, "Are you from Highwood or Highland Park?" and you ask them, "Do you know Viti?" There's so many of us, and we happen to have some big personalities over here, so they definitely heard of us.
Yeah, it'd be exciting to get everybody together again.
So, Gabe, this last trip you took seemed like a very zen, meditative, and probably dangerous trip again.
Yeah. The Northwest Passage was exciting, but I built up to that because after I got done swimming, I bought that sailboat, and I sailed. I didn't know how to sail. I bought the boat in Florida. The guy that was helping me, pick a boat, because I'm not sailing, I'm picking a boat that I want to go around the world on. I asked him, I said, "If I buy this boat, are you going to show me how to sail?" He says, "That's what I do."
Good.
So I bought this great boat, an Island Packet 485, fabulous boat, heavy, and I hired
How
this
long?
guy.
How long is it?
52 feet.
Wow.
And I hired this guy to help me do all the renovation on it, get it all right. And the boat was really good, but there was updates that needed to be done. And I spent a year to the day with him. He showed me how to navigate, anchor, and the keys. So learning to navigate in the keys is good because it's shallow. So I really learned there. And then went to the Bahamas. And a year to the day, I took off for Cuba. And I sailed around the world for 6 years. It was amazing. Went everywhere. It was amazing. So I was going to do the Northwest Passage with that boat. I came across the Atlantic. I got kind of beat up coming across the Atlantic. Tore the front sail off the boat and everything. It was an interesting sail. But we got to St. Martin, and then I decided halfway across the Atlantic that maybe this wasn't the boat. It was a fiberglass sailboat. I was going to be dealing with ice in the Northwest Passage.
No way.
I
You got
was
to be
going to have
safe.
to induce heat without having insulation. Now you got moisture, then you got mold. So I said, okay, I'm going to sell this boat. So my buddy did a YouTube thing. About 250,000 people saw the interview on the boat that I was selling it. Boat sold before I got back to Florida. And then sold that, and then took a few years off, got a house in Colorado in the mountains, and then I started
hold on.
working.
He says a house in Colorado in the mountains. It's 107 acres with a huge house on it. And how many trees have you cut down now?
Well, I think I pulled up about 10,000 dead trees on the property. No fire mitigation had ever been done, So anyways, yeah, the house has been great, and I was, comfortable there, but I realized I wanted to do the Northwest Passage, so I started looking for a steel boat. And I found a boat in Scappoose, Oregon on the Columbia River.
It's a cool looking boat.
Yeah, it really is. Kind of looks like Popeye's boat.
Exactly, looks like Popeye's boat.
So I bought that boat, and then I took that boat. I had no idea that they call it the Bar of Astoria. They call it the Graveyard of the Pacific. I mean, the history of Astoria.
You were excited about going through there, I imagine.
Well, considering we didn't know anything about the boat, a buddy and I went through there, and it was rough. And the exhaust was coming in the boat because the muffler was shot, and da-da-da.
So you're saying high winds and...
Yeah, that's where they train the Coast Guard. The boats that go out and then flip over and then turn around. It's a pretty intense place. It's where the Pacific meets the Columbia Current.
Well, why don't you explain what you did to that boat? Didn't you put a whole nother...
I brought the boat to Seattle, didn't know anybody, and met some great guys. And this guy said, "I can work on your boat, but you're going to have to come to my dock." I said, where's your dock? He said, it's on Lake Union in Seattle. I said, okay. So I went through the lock system, pull up to his dock, old rickety wooden dock, and he's got this Hemingway-esque place in his shop in there. He's about 70, 73-year-old guy. We hit it off. He brought an electrician that he knew. He brought another. In fact, one of the guys he brought in, I ended up taking on the trip with me. The guy was so smart. Oh, Jeremy Kirkendall. The guy was so smart.
You have to feel better having him with it, right?
Oh, I needed him. I mean, I could have done it on my own, but trying to find somebody to work on a boat in the Arctic would have been tough. This guy was sharp. He could have taken the
Did he
diesel
have to fix it during the
He
trip?
did. He tweaked it. Now, we did a lot of renovation. We pulled out the muffler system, put the new pipes in, custom made, put a backup autopilot system in.
Didn't you put a whole
I was
piece of
going to
steel
put a
over it?
piece of steel in the front, and I'm glad I didn't. It would have changed the balance of the boat.
Right.
But I was going to have to rip out the whole interior of the front of the boat to do that. So what we did instead is when Jeremy and I were in Juneau, Alaska, I was talking to this tugboat guy. I said, you got a lot of tires on your boat. I said, I want to do the same thing for the ice up north. 15 minutes later, he drops off old airplane tires, and Jeremy goes to work. And we built what we call, it was a tire mask, tire bra, we called it, that went over the front of the boat. So if there was impact with ice, the tires would protect us. And it did. While we were in there, the Northwest Passage was intense, to say the least.
How many miles did you?
It was 8,500 miles we left February 3rd from Seattle, went through the Arctic, did the whole
I'd
coast
follow
of
you.
Alaska.
I'd see you at the
Yeah,
little
people
map.
got a kick out of that. We ended up October 6th in Rhode Island. So it was a long 8 months. And we went through some stretches where I was at the helm for 40 hours.
Wow.
That was coffee and cigars. I mean, it was intense. So the one time we got there,
And white knuckles.
yeah, it was pretty intense. Ice all around us. So we got to this place where close to shore, and there was some ice floating around, but I knew there was current, but it was a rookie move. But I anchored next to shore. I had to. I was too tired. So that's probably a leaf blower. So, anyways. So I anchored, we went to bed, and 2 hours later he woke me up. We got hit by an 850-foot long ice sheet, 300 feet wide, just making its way down the coast with the current. Then what happens, the ice breaks away, and parts of it melts, and now you get these big pieces. It hit the tire bra on the front of the boat, and it was coming in here. And, well, at least they're doing a good job.
Exactly.
So it hit the front of the boat and had pressure on our anchor cable. We had 500 feet. We had 50 feet of chain and 400 feet of cable. So I started the engine up. Jeremy let as much as he could out, and it still wasn't going to pass by us. And I tried to maneuver the boat around so it would pass by, but something underneath, these ice sheets are deep.
Oh, yeah.
Jagged. So I said, take a couple of fenders, tie it to the end of the cable, and let it go. Just let it go. It'll pass by, and we'll grab our tackle. And sure enough, we had ripped one of them off, and the other one hung on. So we were able to recuperate our tackle, and it was exciting, but dangerous. And you're in the middle of the Arctic.
Right.
I mean, there's nobody coming to help you.
No.
So Jeremy and I could have been on there. I knew that if we got off the boat at that point, the first thing I was going to grab, obviously we were already pretty warm. I would have grabbed a heavy jacket and a shotgun and as many shells as I could, because the polar bears out there are intense, and they would have been chasing us.
They're big.
Yeah, it would not have been good.
Did you see a lot of wildlife?
A lot. Saw beluga whales, humpback whales, gray whales, a lot of the sea otters.
Dolphins?
They're interesting. Tons of dolphins. We saw maybe 5 different types of dolphins from the time we left Seattle to the time we arrived in Rhode Island. And, we saw a big polar bear in Tay Bay. That was on the top of Baffin Island. That was intense. A 2,000-pound animal walking on the shore next to you.
Do you see why I'm trying to convince him to write a book?
Yeah.
Because it would be a lot of books.
I told you I can't spell, so how do I write the
Well,
book?
you just write it by talking, just like you're doing now. This is the start of the book. Right here today, Chef Gabriel Viti. So proud of you, brother.
Thank you. Yeah, I've had some fun. It's been nice.
So what are your dreams now?
My dreams now is to focus on my ranch that I bought in Colorado, and I want to make that perfect. And then I don't know. I talked to my guide that I climbed with on Antarctica, and asked him about doing the North and South Pole, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I'm. I mean,
So-
it's an interesting list. Of
So
stuff.
Gabe's been, skiing forever. I've been skiing forever. We've never skied together. And on January 7th, I'm flying to the steamboat. He's picking me up. We're gonna go play on his 107 acres. I'm gonna walk it all, and then we're gonna ski the next day together. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to that as well.
So, is there something else that you want to tell listeners before we say goodbye to them?
I don't know. I guess I
Come to Miramar.
Come
Meet the
yeah.
famous chef. He's
Yeah.
not here that often, so now's the time to get him.
I would say that, if there's anybody that watches this and is inspired, that's great. But if you ever wanted to do anything in your life, if you ever had a goal or you ever read about something that sounded like it was interesting, you can do it.
That's it.
I mean, I was a horrible swimmer. When I decided after climbing that I was going to swim the English Channel, I called my coach, Robbie Ventura, for the triathlons and said, "Hey, I think I want to swim the English Channel." He said, "You're the worst swimmer I've ever met." I did it though. I
Right.
was able to focus. I swam the 40,000 yards a week for 2.5 years. I did the open water swimming 2 to 10 hours a day. It was a lot, but I wanted to succeed.
So do you understand? Goal orientated, heavy duty entrepreneur, loves a challenge, never gonna say no to something. That's my cousin Gabriel, and that's why I'm so proud of him.
Thanks.
And we're very blessed that we do have a lot of great relatives. And like since we were kids, we had to laugh. We have these 4 aunts where if you went to a wedding or you went to a funeral, because it didn't matter with the Vitis, either way it was going to be fun. When they walked into the room, you would think there was 40 people in the room. No, it was just our 4 aunts. They all talk so loud, they talk so aggressive,
Yeah.
they're so crazy. They made our uncles seem like they weren't so crazy. But they're very crazy, like Uncle Gabe, our Uncle Guy, always had the dirty hands, excavator. He never said an appropriate thing in his life, and he was the sweetest guy in the
Yeah,
world.
good people, good people. We're
Uncle
lucky.
Vince
We're lucky.
played the piano,
Yeah.
he was an entrepreneur, crazy funny, just all of them. Like, we're very blessed that we've had a great run. So come visit us in Highwood.
There you go. Miramar Bistro.
And this is Greg Viti from Real Estate Legends saying thanks for listening, and we look forward to being with you soon. Happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays.